You're listening to CFRN, a community of believers who trade for a living. To learn more about who we are, what we do, and how we do it, call toll-free 1-866-928-3310, and we'll send you out a no-obligation information kit absolutely free. 866-928-3310. The CFRN Emini Futures Cast is now on Stitcher. Listen to us on your iPhone, Android phones, BlackBerry, and WebOS phone. Stitcher is smart radio for your phone. Find it in your app store or at Stitcher.com. Stitcher Smart Radio, the smarter way to listen to radio.
Are you ready, Steve? Andy? Yeah! Bert? Well, all right, fellas.
You're listening to CFRN, the Christian Financial Radio Network.
Today's broadcast is brought to you by Audible. Get a free audiobook download at www.audibletrial.com/CFRN. Over 85,000 titles. Choose from mystery, romance, religion, science, technology, business, New York Times bestsellers, even children's books. You name it, Audible has it. With 85,000 titles to choose from, you're sure to find the perfect audiobook for yourself or to give as a gift, and it's absolutely free. Just point your browser to audibletrial.com/CFRN. That's audibletrial.com/CFRN. And become a part of the audiobook revolution by downloading your free audiobook today. audibletrial.com/CFRN.
Hey, trader, want to get rich quick? Well, good luck with that. If, on the other hand, you actually want to learn how to trade, the place to be is www.CFRN.net. Tune in Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. Eastern for our daily devotional, and then spend the next 3 hours learning how it's done for professional traders who actually trade for a living. That's www.CFRN.net. Every trading day from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. Eastern. CFRN, a community of believers who trade for a living.
Good afternoon, traders, and welcome back to the CFRN Emini Futures Cast. This is the daily broadcast of Indeterminate Length, where we discuss all things Emini, along with some really big ideas on the finer points of trading gold, bonds, crude, sugar, the euro, and even T-bills. Joining us today from our studios in Boston, Mr. Michael Borth. From our trading desk in Chicago, Mr. Burton Schlichter. Now, to get things started, let's go to our host and founder in Studio A, overlooking South Mountain, America's largest city park. Here's Dwayne.
Good afternoon. Welcome back. Today is Monday, the first day of June, 2020. Thanks so much for joining us. Whoever you are, wherever you are, we're just glad to have you right here, right now. If you cannot see the screen I have up, go to our homepage at CFRN.net. On the right-hand side, you'll see a big microphone. Just click that. That'll take you to a page, and if you follow those simple instructions, in about 30 seconds, you'll be registered, and you'll have one-click access to the show every day. You'll get an email before the show starts, just reminding you the show starts at noon. You can delete it, or you can hang on to it. You can opt out too, but you can hang on to it until it's noon, and with one click, not the whole registration process, just one click, boom, in like fun. Also, if you're out of the office away from the desktop, you can go to CFRN.net/live for a real-time simulcast of the show as it unfolds, but that page doesn't have a chat box. the first set of instructions where you one time register from our home page, clicking the big microphone. That's good. You're good to go for as long as we go. Okay. So then the second option, if you're away from your office and you don't want to have to download the go-to software, then just point your browser to cfrn.net/live. We also stream live in real time during the show. Now, CFRN streams 24/7, and it has since April of 2005. But 2 hours a day, we pause the preaching and the teaching, and we go live for a couple hours, and then back to our regularly scheduled programming. Okay? So, during those 2 hours, which is 12 noon to 2 p.m. Eastern, thereabouts, you'll find us streaming live on YouTube, on Facebook, and also on Twitter. Twitter.com/CFRN, YouTube.com/CFRN. And on Facebook, it gets a little more complicated. It's something like, let's see, Facebook.com/Emini Futures Live Trading. That's a mouthful. I think I'm going to fix that. Facebook.com/Emini Futures Live Trading. Okay? So we're streaming live in all those places. So if you want to get to the show, we have many ways for the show to get to you. Hope you had a great weekend. Why don't we open with a word of prayer? I don't need to tell you, things are a mess out there. Depending upon where you live, it could be in your front yard. It's in the president's front yard. They burned St. Mark's. Every president since Madison has walked across Lafayette Park, leave the White House, walk across Lafayette Park, you stand in front of St. Mark's, built in 1812. That's just from off the top of my head memory. Every president since Madison has made that walk, many on Sunday mornings with their family, to sit in the pews and to pray. And last night, he tried to burn it down because one man killed another man. Now, it just so happens that one man was white and one man was black. We do have a culturally diverse population. In the good book, it doesn't say, thou shalt not kill people of any certain color. It just says, thou shalt not kill. Period. Thou shalt not kill. And all of these people, from politicians to media to the people in the street, yeah, I'm talking to you, people in the street, try to racially divide this nation. Shame on you. There's one race, and it's called the human race. I fear the only thing that's going to unite us at this point would be Martians showing up, and we all have, something to bond us together. Oh wait, we already do. Each and every one of us was created in the image of God. So we're all created in the image of God, and we're all called to be followers of Christ. I didn't see Jesus in Lafayette Park last night. Yeah, I know, he could get upset. He could turn over some tables, chase out some money changers. I know. He had that side. He had a humorous side. He had a side that could get a little upset. It's a terrible thing that's happening in our country. All I need to do. I'll tell you that. Well, no, you know what? I'll tell. Before we pray, I'll tell you the story I told last night in the Telegram discussion group, or in the Breeze channel, I believe it was. I grew up in a very small town in Georgia, as most of you know, Thompson, Georgia. My grandfather was the sheriff when I was a small boy. He was sheriff when all of the race riots were happening. Watts was on fire, other places, Philly. Well, when it finally trickled down to my small town in Georgia, here's how it played out. There's a set of railroad tracks that runs right through downtown Thompson, Georgia. Now, it's not one of those situations where you could live on the right side of the tracks or the wrong side of the tracks, because everything was just all those set of railroad tracks did not divide us culturally, socially, economically in any way whatsoever. But it just so happened, as things were coming to a head in LA and Watts, other places in the country, this was the 60s, I'm talking about the race riots. My grandfather found himself standing in the middle of those railroad tracks in downtown Thompson, Georgia. And to his left were the people of color, black people. To his right were the white people. And everyone was mad and upset. And perhaps rightfully so. It's one thing to be upset, it's another thing how you deal with your upsetness. But anyway, my grandfather, one man, he had no deputy. He couldn't radio for backup. I don't even think he had a radio, because there's nobody to radio. It was him. He was Andy and I was Opie. I mean,
I was going to say, did he have one bullet in his gun?
No. He had a .38 revolver with 6 bullets. And he never wore a holster. He carried it in his front pants pocket. He reached into his pocket, he pulled out his .38, and he held it up in the air. And he looked to the left, and he looked to the right, and he said to everyone, the first man that crosses these tracks, white or black, will not be going home tonight. He did not even have to fire the gun. Everybody mumbled and grumbled, put down their pitchforks and torches, and everybody went home. And the next day, everybody got up and went to work, and was polite and courteous to everyone around them, no matter what their color. They treated everybody with dignity and respect from both sides of the street. It baffles me that President Trump was not out on the lawn of the White House with his pistol the first night this nonsense started. I'm not a proponent of him shooting somebody, but there needs to be a meaningful show of force to stop this foolishness, and that's what it is. This has nothing to do with that man George who died last week. What a horrible, tragic thing that was. But it was one man killing another man. It is not representative of anything other than that. The book says, thou shalt not kill, period. Father, we come before you today, humbled by your mercy and your grace in our lives. As we face these uncertain times in our nation and in the world, we ask you, God, to dwell among us. We're comforted by the knowledge that you alone are Savior and Lord, the ultimate master of life. We trust our nation to your loving care. We pray, God, that today, in this moment, in this hour, send your Spirit to touch the hearts of our nation's leaders. Give them the wisdom to know what is right, and then the courage to do it. And God, we pray that you would give us your light and your truth to guide us in our ways, so that we may seek your will in our lives, and that we might impact the world around us for your kingdom. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. All right, guys, going to do something a little different today.
Amen.
I had a request for someone mentioned that there was sort of a lack of continuity from when I open up with the daily chart and do that walkthrough. Then we go to the range chart, then we go to the 30. So today, just to see how it feels, I'm going to ask Michael if he'll go ahead and go first. And then when I come back, what I'll do is I will start with the daily and then just segue right into the 30-minute chart and the alerts. And then if we get some feedback on that and it seems to be a good thing, then we'll consider setting that as the model. Okay, let me just give you the numbers real quick from around the world. This is the big picture. Currently, right now, here in the US of A, I'm going to refresh my data one more time. Okay, Dow up 66 points, NASDAQ up 50, S&P 500 up 8, and the Russell 2000 leading the pack up 19. That's our man in the street. The only mover and shaker is the Russell up 1.25%. In the commodity basket, crude oil down 86 cents, trading 34.63 last. That's a drop of about 2.5%. Gold up $1.80, trading 17.53.50 last. In the Asian markets at the close, Nikkei posted a gain of 184 points. The Shanghai rose 63. The Hang Seng jumped 771 points. That's a gain of 3.5%. In European markets at the close, FTSE up 89, 1.5%. DAX down 194, 1.5%. And the CAC added 67, and you guessed it, a gain of 1.5%. That gives us a green day in Asia, mixed day in the UK. And what was once a red radio Monday here in the US of A is now, at least for the moment, a big green radio Monday. And let's go to Michael. We'll get a recap of what happened in the live training room. Then you and I will walk through the daily chart of the S&P 500. We'll then take a look at the alerts, and we'll walk through those as well. Michael, it's all yours.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. Bring it over here. And we'll go over all the stuff that we did and didn't do in the room this morning. Now let's start out with this. Here we go. I am ready. All right, I got it. All right, good afternoon, everyone. Today is Monday, the first day of June, 2020. Can you believe it's June already? 2020. If you've not taken a free trial with us, go to the homepage at CFRN.net. And right here, scroll down where it says free 5-day trial, no credit card required. Click on that, and you will be brought to this page, EminiTrainingschool.com. On this page, all we ask for is your name, your email, your phone number. And you can fill this out so we can actually really schedule one-on-one training, which, by the way, I have a whole bunch of people I got to do that with this afternoon. Click on that, fill that out, hit the send button, and you'll be sent a confirmation link. You must click the confirmation link, okay? If you don't click the confirmation link, we don't know that you took the free trial. It's funny, you know, Jake's sitting behind me, and I'm sure he can probably repeat that word for word. But, okay, today we had a pretty good day in the room. There was a lot of opportunity. There was a lot of opportunity missed, but we picked up 2 ticks on crude, 27 ticks on gold, and 8 ticks on the ES. That put us up $390 a contract. And this morning, it took 12 minutes and 1 trade to get to $100 a contract. At that point, we're up $8. I mean, we took a total of, we were up $100 a contract, and we took a total of 8 trades this morning. Okay, so on the morning session, we're up $390 a contract. Now, it's the first day of the month, so, the daily average doesn't really mean too much. But on the year, we're up $36,805 a contract. That's over 98 days, averaging $375 per contract per day. Okay. Now, you gotta realize the significance of that. If you can do that, here, let me put that back over there. If you can do that on a daily basis with one contract in 2 hours, imagine what you can do with more contracts. So let's look at gold. All right. Now, gold started off, I'm trying to remember this morning when I started everything out. I think only one market was trending, and I think it was gold. And then something happened somewhere, not just with gold, but with crude oil too. But here, we picked up 7 ticks on gold right here. We missed a long trade there. Missed a long trade there, and there. And a short trade there. And then we finally grabbed one here for 20 ticks. Put us at plus 27. And we missed one right there. And then you get into the break. And during the break, let's see, there was a long trade right there. Nice one right there. And what you have to keep in mind is that the goal is not to make, 100 ticks per contract. The goal is to make 10 ticks per contract. And after you make 10 ticks per contract, then, you do that enough times in a row, to trade consistently, to be consistently profitable. That is the goal. And once you are, then you can add more contracts. And when you add more contracts, then you will make more money in a shorter period of time. Like today, it took me 12 minutes and 2 trades. And, we go through the spreadsheet and, you'll see Friday took 15 minutes in 1 trade. Thursday, 4 minutes in 1 trade. Wednesday, 10 minutes in 1 trade. You just gotta do the same thing over and over and over. All right, so you gotta learn the trade setups and do the same thing. Now, as far as the YBR trades go, I know I got you guys interested in that. And so let's just take a quick look at them right now. Okay, now they are not the trades that we do. Okay, they are not the trades that we do in the morning session. In the morning session, we don't do the YBR trades, but if I see them, I'll point it out to you. Like, here was one right here that I pointed out. That would have gotten us in way up here instead of way down here. There was one right here that would have failed. That's unusual. There was one right here that would have been break even. There was one right here that was just beautiful trade. One right here. One right here. Oh, I'm sorry. These 2 don't count. I was looking the wrong way at the slingshot. There was one right here. Yeah, that's pretty much it on the morning session. But that was just gold. There was just so much opportunity. See, look at that one right there. Bang, it just jumps right out at you. Right there. Just jumps right out at you. Anyway, on the euro this morning. We started out here. We missed a long trade right there. We picked up a break even right there. Missed the short on the follow-up, and missed the short on the follow-up again. YBR trades, there was one right there. We missed a long right in there. Nice YBR trade right here. Yeah, and that should have actually been a trade for us too. But it would have been down here a bar later. YBR trade right there during the break. There's kind of one going on right now, but the cycle's going down kind of steep. And that was it. We ended up break even on the euro. All right, now gold. I have gold a little bit crunched up here because there was a lot of activity this morning. Started out in here, right here was a long trade. I don't have it highlighted, but there was a long trade right in there. Then another one right there. Then it got all mixed up. And there was a short trade right there. Another short trade right there. And another there and there. And then I stopped out. When I finally took a trade, I stopped out. Oh, this isn't gold, this is crude. I'm sorry. When I finally took a trade, I stopped out. And then I picked up 10 ticks on this one right here on this move. Okay. Keep going across. Now we're into the break right here. And it looks like there was a long trade there and another one there. And then it just got sideways. Okay, that was crude. Now the ES is where we got our goal for the day to begin with, but then it got really messy. Okay, right in here is where we got our goal for the day. We picked up 8 ticks on that move up. We had a break even right there. And you got to look at it. Here, let me back it out so you can see. Do you see how it have a run and then get really choppy and have a run and get really choppy? So we didn't have a lot of trade opportunities today on the ES. You know, if you got in on one of the runs, great. If you didn't, well, that's okay too. But looking at the YBR stuff, there was a YBR trade right here for that leg up. A trade here for that leg down. A trade here for that leg up. A trade here from right here for that leg down. A trade right here for that leg up. This is kind of iffy in here, but you know, if you took it, it would have worked out. But it was kind of iffy. And you know, if it's iffy, then you probably don't want to do it. There's a trade here that looks like it probably would have stopped you out to the tick and then moved up. A trade here for that leg down. And I wouldn't have done that. But I just wanted to point out. Nope, not yet, Dwayne. I'm still going. I'm just finishing up on the ES right now. I'm just finishing up on the ES. Okay. And so with that, we'll go back here today on the morning session. Oh, first of all, if you're going to read the spreadsheet, go to all CFTC risk disclosures down at the bottom. Today is the first day of June 2020. Today we made 2 ticks on crude, 27 ticks on gold, and 8 ticks on the ES to put us at plus $390 a contract. Now, today it took 12 minutes and 1 trade to get to the goal for the day. At that point, we're up $100 a contract, and we took 8 trades in total today. So on the month, we're up $390 a contract. That's obviously just our first day. So $390. On the year, we're at $36,805. That's over 98 days, averaging $375 per contract per 2-hour day. Now, last month, we ended up $6,080. The month before, 8,361. The month before that, 15,021. Month before that, 4,100. The month before that, this is before the coronavirus, 2,798. Okay, so you can see how things are going right here. If you look at the monthly totals, coronavirus starting overseas, coronavirus hitting the US, self-distancing. And so, I mean, it's unprecedented, really. You can see it in the monthly totals. All right, now, if you have not taken a free trial with us, go to the homepage at CFRN.net. And over here, all you have to do is click on free 5-day trial. That's going to bring you to this page, EminiTradingSchool.com. On this page, all we ask for is your name, your email, your phone number. And you click in here and hit the send button. You'll be sent a confirmation link. Okay. Now, once you get that confirmation link, you must click on it. If you don't click on it, then we don't know that you took the free trial. Okay. So you got to click on it. We only know you took the trial if you click on it. Okay, I'm going to minimize this. And first, Joe, you want to meet on Thursday, right? So I will put that down. Okay, we'll do that. Dennis, are you in here right now? I know you wanted to meet today. I don't see him in here, but I know he wanted to meet today. He's on my list too. Joe, Dennis, Casey, Vic, John, Alex, Ray, Juan, Roy. Yeah. So, okay. We'll plan on Thursday. Okay. All right. And with that, we can pass it back out to fabulous Phoenix, Arizona. Studio A, overlooking the South Mountain, America's largest city park. Dwayne, if you are ready.
Yes, sir, I'm ready.
Okay.
Recap of the recap.
Today it took 12 minutes and 2 trades to get to $100 per contract.
Good job.
All right, thank you.
All right. Let's see. Okay. Gotta show you something real quick before we launch into the charts. This has to do with the markets. Emini higher on domestic violence. That's just a headline to get your attention. Do E-mini markets respond to riots? Do any markets respond to riots? Well, the bigger question is, do markets respond to war or violence? Will the rioting across America have an impact on the markets? History tells us, quite sadly, that war is good for the markets. It's not good for people. It's good for the markets. Which brings us to the question, is there a difference between war on our shores versus foreign shores? Well, certainly there is when it comes to the personal safety of every American. Yesterday, as I was pondering this question, I found time to do just a small amount of research, getting ready for the Globex Open. If you want to do your own research, you can use the link that I found. It's a Wikipedia link right here, which is simply a list of incidents of civil unrest in the United States. And it looks like this. It goes way back in time, but I only had time to do a small amount of research. But I'll show you what I found. And my invitation for you if you find such things of interest, to pursue it. Okay, this is a chart right here of 1968. This is the Dow. And it's a weekly chart. The bullish weekly move in the Dow Jones Index, which continued for 6 weeks or 6 candles. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, 6 weekly candles. Almost a parabolic move to the upside. Those 6 candles, those 6 weekly candles, correspond to the assassination of Martin Luther King. That was April of '68. The Detroit riots, the New York City riots, the DC riots, Chicago, Pittsburgh, Baltimore, Avondale, Kansas City, Wilmington, Trenton, Columbia University, and the Louisville riots. Okay? Now, that's one little spot in time, April and May 1968. This is how the market responded. Okay? Now, that's a sample size of 1, which we know is not adequate to arrive at any kind of a satisfactory conclusion. Then, after all that, the market pulled back into August of '68. See, this is 69 over here. We're still in 68. Here's August. The markets pull back into August '68. And then this rally unfolds, lasting 17 to 18 weeks, depending upon how you count these weekly candles. 17 to 18 weeks. It's only 52 weeks in a year. Perhaps this extended up move was more political fever than thugs in the street. And then I ask, is that an oxymoron? But I removed that. So this chart corresponds to the Miami riots and the riots at the Democratic National Convention in August of '68. So that's 2 glimpses, and it was 2 in a row. I didn't jump around. I just grabbed, some data off that Wikipedia page. And then this is July through October of '69. Again, a weekly chart. This move up, which is the next bout of riots, July through October '69. The York Race Riot, Days of Rage, the Weatherman Riot in Chicago. And it would take a much closer, more in-depth, and much larger sample size than what I have researched and shared in the last 5 minutes. I posted this yesterday. However, for those who enjoy such things, it should be an exciting journey to prove or disprove any tangible correlation. Now keep in mind that the question here is about mass violence on American soil versus foreign soil. The foreign soil issue was settled by history long before the question ever crossed my mind. If you find this interesting, and if you do additional research on the matter, I invite you to please share it with us all in the Telegram discussion group. So again, I grabbed just 3 little chunks of time. But that Wikipedia page, which is linked right here, I mean, this thing highlights, where does it start? 1783? 1783, and then it takes you all the way up through the 80s, the 90s, the 2000s.
1783 was probably when they first started actually keeping records of it.
Right up to 2020. Yeah, that could be. Very well could be. The Pennsylvania Mutiny of 1783. Okay, all right, so with that, now we'll go to the daily chart of the S&P and see what we have. We all know about the bearish
John's
cross.
in the room, too, just so you know.
John's here? Okay, all right, guys,
Yeah.
tell you what, for the sake of continuity, I'm going to do the daily walkthrough of the charts and then the alerts on the 30-minute charts. But again, for the sake of continuity, let's talk to John first. John, welcome to the show.
There you go, John. Mic is open.
John, you got an open mic? All right. Here. Let me see if he actually wants to come on or not. Let's call him. Get this over with.
Joe on Thursday.
Hey, you ready to go?
Yeah.
All right. Okay, so again, after we finish talking to John, we're going to go to the daily chart, S&P, Dow, Russell, NQ. We'll take a look at each of those, crude, gold, okay. Then we're going to break it down on the 30-minute charts, go through the alerts. Concierge and logic. John, welcome to the show.
He's not in yet.
Bearish cross, price of 32.72. Took place on the 27th day of February. And once we were below the BBC, which is the green line, we anticipate lower prices until price finds itself back above the green line. Called the bull-bear cross. Cross below it, we're bearish. Above it, we're bullish. Price always reverts to the mean, and in our case, the mean just so happens to be green. Now, once we hit the pandemic low on March 23rd at a price 21.74, buyers came in, took us to resistance. When price approaches the BBC from below, we anticipate resistance. When price encounters resistance that it can't break, it will then go look for support, which it found right here. Support sends it back to resistance, resistance sends it back to support. This time at support we also find the CFMA1, which I refer to as blue and climbing or red and falling. Price pulls back into blue and climbing, which serves as good support. And then we close, remember this is a daily chart, we close above the BBC. Everything we do is fluid across all markets and all time frames. Daily chart, weekly chart, hourly chart, range chart, volume chart, any chart. Everything we do is fluid across all markets at all time frames. Okay, so what I'm explaining to you here, the way I'm breaking down this daily chart, it could just as easily be a 1 minute chart. I would break it down exactly the same way. Once price closes back above the BBC, we now anticipate higher prices. But we know, because we had already highlighted on the chart, the potential resistance that we would run into. We did. Resistance and just back to support. This time we're on the other side of the BBC. So whereas here it acts as resistance, here it serves as support. Buyers come in, take us up to this previous area of resistance. What was once support became resistance. And then the following session, we were able to trade above that. And the market handed us this nice little doji, signaling that this particular leg might be done for a moment, long enough for a pullback, which happened over the next two sessions, back to the BBC where we found good support, what we anticipate. Support sent the market in search of resistance, and resistance sent price looking for support. Support sends us back to resistance, another doji, and a trip back to the BBC. Yeah, John, you got an open mic. Doesn't he? It says he's offline. It says you're offline.
9, 5, 6, 4, 6.
Now it says you're back online. John, you there? John? Hey, John. Okay. Support sends price back to resistance. This time the pullback is very shallow. Instead of pulling all the way back to the BBC, we find support at blue and climbing. And we walk the back of blue and climbing. These are daily candles again for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Here we are, session number 7. Question. John, you have an open mic on. You're logged in twice, and you have an open mic.
I just rebooted, and it's, I'm not, you're not hearing me. I'm hearing you, but I'm not hearing you. You're not hearing me.
Yeah, maybe unplug your mic and plug it back in or something.
I tried that. Yeah. Well, let me try that again. Let me try one last time.
Okay. Alrighty. All right. Well, we'll be here. Okay, John having some difficulties. From here, one of two things happens. Price takes out this swing high and then attempts to take out that swing high. However, we anticipate that that area will be resistance, which is why the line's here, like it was in all the other spots, before price gets there, because the chart tells you.
Hello, is that any good?
Yeah, I hear you. Welcome to the show.
Okay, perfect. That's great. Yeah. Well, I guess I should start off by saying my Tesla ship came in.
Did it? Well, that's great.
Yeah, up 40 or 50 points today. Kind of heading for 900, which is what we were thinking. And possibly even higher. I think it might go to 1,000 or even 1,200. It's looking very bullish. Two standout situations today. Kind of got the heads up on this last week. ZM, which is Zoom, is up more than $20. So just gone through 200 today. And
Zoom. Okay, let's take a look at that. Oh, it's just ZM. There we go. Yeah, that's a daily chart.
that's incredible, isn't it?
Yeah, pretty powerful.
And the other one is ZS, which is Zscaler. It's a similar sort of a kind of a corporate organization thing.
Yeah, I haven't heard of that one.
Yeah, it's benefiting from the same sort of thing as
Certainly benefiting from the current situation. And these companies, not only are they just kind of getting people through during this pandemic crisis, where so many are forced to work from home, many for the first time. I truly believe what's happening is that this pandemic curse that fell on America, it's going to reshape the way America goes back to work, because I think there's going to be an awful lot of employers that have learned through this very tough experience that they can not only have employees work efficiently from home, they can manage them efficiently, and the cost of that employee, the overhead cost of that employee, goes down dramatically with no real decrease in production. In fact, I think many employers are probably reporting an increase in production because people are learning to work differently. Now, for some, it's a real challenge. Some people They need that shop steward standing there, barking orders, keeping them on track, keeping them focused, keeping their shoulder to the wheel and nose to the grindstone kind of thing. And some people don't. So some people will have to go back to work because of the nature of their job. It's a physical type job. But I think commercial real estate as a result is going to take a tremendous hit. So stocks like ZS and Zoom are up. Commercial REITs, I think they're gonna. I think they're in for some tough times. So, back to you.
Yeah, I'm inclined to agree with you. We haven't, obviously, with 40 million supposedly unemployed. It's off place to be right now. But the surprises may be that the GDP and the market, the economy may actually rebound in spite of that, and in a way, as the economy rebounds, it'll be rebounding, on less people working, and that the market could interpret, well, it already is interpreting that as pretty bullish, given that we've come this far already, and we have 40 million people unemployed. Who'd have thought this is possible?
We had a slightly better than expected ISM number this morning.
Yeah, that's kind of
forecast.
A big deal.
43 came in at 43.1.
Yeah. This is kind of a strange thing going on today. Lilly, LLY, came out with some pretty good news.
Give me the symbol again.
Got something, actually two pieces of good news.
What is it?
One,
What's the symbol, John?
Sorry, LLY.
LLY. Oh, Eli Lilly. Okay.
Yeah. And
in Augusta, Georgia, they have a manufacturing plant, and the front of the building it looks like a giant Dixie cup. Some of you in the audience are probably old enough to remember the original Dixie cup that was white and had green lettering on it, and it kind of went in your bathroom, and you would use it to rinse out your mouth with mouthwash or some such thing. But as a child, it was fascinating to drive by this building and see this huge Dixie cup. But go ahead.
Yeah, so it got the approval for a cancer treatment, and it got it's in some new study that's different from everything else, using the blood of an infected patient, and they knocked the stock down, but it is coming back from the lows right now. And
Russia claims that they've got a fix for the coronavirus now. They got some kind of 50-50 deal going with Japan. And I'm trying to think of the name of the drug. Where did I see
not
that?
Avigan. Avigan, is it?
No, it's not Avigan. It's more like Avivar or Adavar or... hang on. I was sharing it with the guys this morning. I'm just trying to see where I grabbed it from. Let's see. Russia. Coronavirus. And I'll throw in cure. Russians claim to have an effective treatment for the coronavirus, which hospitals will start using this month. Preliminary trials are said to have shown that it could shorten recovery times for patients. It's called Avifavir, A-V-I-F-A-V-I-R. Afivavir, perhaps, might be the correct
similar to that other one, but slightly different.
An anti-influenza drug, and will start delivering it to hospitals this month, according to Russia's sovereign wealth fund. The fund, RDIF, which has provided RDIF, really? I don't suspect that's chartable, is it? No, it's not. Okay, the fund, RDIF, has provided money for Russia's development and production of the drug, which is based on Favipiravir, an anti-influenza drug developed in Japan.
That's Avigan.
Under the name Avigan. There you go. So you're right. Yeah, in a 50-50 joint venture with Russian pharmaceutical firm Kimroar. So you were correct. So what are your thoughts on this particular? I mean, they're touting it as the deal. What do you know about
Well,
it?
they're going to start manufacturing it in Mexico. I read 2 days ago.
I think, yeah, you mentioned that last week, I think.
So I think this is, I've been saying all along, what took them so long to figure this out. The Chinese, after all the drama they've been through, came a couple of months ago, were saying that this is their #1 treatment, and nobody got the memo. I mean, it's pretty incredible.
Apparently Russia and Japan got it, so.
Well, they did finally, yeah. I guess it's finally getting some sort of attention. But, 100,000 people have died in the meantime in the U.S. and nearly 400,000 people worldwide. It seems to me to be a terrible, there's been a kind of a lackadaisical attitude, not the least of which has been all this nonsense over the hydroxy, which
Right.
certainly it
Says according to data received, 65% of the 40 patients tested negative for coronavirus 5 days after treatment.
I mean, that's crazy. They should have been handing this stuff out in the street corner. I mean, honest to God.
Right.
It's. I'm just gobsmacked, frankly.
Russia has the highest number of confirmed coronavirus cases in the world, with 405,843, according to data collected by Johns Hopkins.
Look at the deaths in Russia. Look at the recovery rate.
4,693 deaths.
Exactly. I mean, it's something. They're obviously doing a lot of things right.
Is that 1%?
It's pretty small,
Okay. Yeah,
Terrible.
I guess that would be roughly 1%. You got 405,000 confirmed cases, 4,693 deaths. So I guess that's about 1%. Okay. So, this business in the streets, what are your thoughts? How should our government be handling this? Did you lose your connection? John?
Yeah, sorry about that. Yeah. Okay.
So, what about this violence in the streets? What are your thoughts?
It's I'm having a hard time believing it's happening, to tell you the truth.
Why is our government allowing it to happen?
I don't know. I know that's just crazy. There's such a these democratic cities. They're just like doing anything. They're probably celebrating this is going on. It's just terrible.
I mean, there's all kind of rumors, all of them unsubstantiated, I suppose, that paid looters are being bussed in to wreak havoc and cause damage. I mean,
I said, years ago, I said on this program they should pass a law that people who get paid to demonstrate should be, that there should be a law against it. And just the same as there should be a law against people in the media accepting money for, from people, from any kind of a political party, which has been going on since 2016. That's why do you think these people are writing negative press all the time on Trump? Because they're getting paid to. It's crazy.
Macy's is being dropped from the S&P 500 on Friday to be replaced by Carrier Global. Guys, you've heard me say for years that the S&P 500 and the other indices will always go higher over time because that's how they were created. That's what they were built to do. When one of the companies becomes unhealthy, misses their numbers a couple times, they get shown the exit door and a fresh, strong bull gets brought in. So over time, the index will always rise. There'll be sell-offs and all kinds of things along the way, but over time, it will always rise. It says here, Macy's lost its spot.
Some of these people who make up these indices, they kind of...
There's a very long list of qualifications.
They have a habit of putting stuff in near the top,
I'm sorry?
They have a habit of putting stuff in near the top, kind of like putting the zoom into the Dow or something like that. You know what I mean? it's
The
so it doesn't
retailer,
always work.
Macy, is being replaced by Carrier Global. The retailer Macy, their market cap dropped from about $6 billion in mid-February all the way down to $1.5 billion today. Several other retailers and energy companies have also lost value and could be removed. I thought I heard this morning that Harley Davidson was being kicked out. Others,
Yeah,
Macy's has
possible,
plenty of company, Kohl's, Nordstrom's, Gap, and Hanes brands. So do plenty of energy companies such as Apache, Devon, Marathon Oil, and I was almost positive Harley Davidson leaving S&P. No, that doesn't pop up, so perhaps I misheard that. So, what else you want to take a look at?
Well, you could bring up Tesla just to take a peek at it.
Sure, here we go. Daily chart.
It certainly looks like it's headed for 900. That's a very big gap, actually.
Yeah, it is.
That I wouldn't underestimate.
That's about a $50 gap, it looks like.
Yeah,
Or maybe
it's
not
a
quite
really
that
big
much.
deal.
$8.30 up to $8.50, $20 gap, still big.
Yeah, I mean, look at the previous retest. You see how we gapped up to it the second time? We certainly look like we're going to go and hit that 930, maybe 930 or so. Maybe it's more, maybe 950. Whether we get above 950 remains to be seen, but could do it this time. You never know. That was an unbelievable liftoff on Saturday, and unbelievable. The stocking of the whole thing was just absolutely state of the art. Did you see the thing about the flag inside the space station?
No, I didn't see that. What was it?
Well, they had a little flag stuck to the space station door, and it said not to be removed except when launched from KSC, Kennedy Space Center.
Mm-hmm.
That flag was on the first shuttle flight and the last shuttle flight.
Oh, wow.
So obviously it meant that not to be removed by anybody launching from Russia.
Gotcha.
And I guess this is a really big deal.
So I guess the plans of the Space Force is to set up a base on the moon, and that's where the trip to Mars will actually be launched from.
Yeah.
The surface of the moon.
You know, what I think was really amazing about this launch on Saturday was probably for the first time ever, you were able to actually understand, you know, why a rocket takes off with so much power, you know, getting it through the first part of the atmosphere, if you like,
Mm-hmm.
where the gravity is the heaviest. And then that getting, you know, I mean, listen, after 2 minutes or 2 or 3 minutes, it gets ejected and gets, you know, thanks to Elon Musk's ingenuity and thanks to what was the name of those people in the cartoon 50 years ago?
The Jetsons?
Yeah, right, where the rockets used to land like that. You know, that the fact that they're doing it for real today is amazing, especially so precisely. And then the second stage, you know, then there's another stage that gets it into the orbit. And did you notice how, you know, it was measured in meters per second, so 27,000 meters per second is about 17,000 miles an hour. So it kind of gets up to the same speed as a space station, right? Mm-hmm. And I guess it gradually catches it up as it goes around. But I mean, it was really. Did you notice how? I guess it was not more than about 10 minutes into it, maybe 10 or 15 minutes, that the acceleration stopped, like just stopped dead. In other words, as soon as it got to the 17,000 miles an hour, the 27,000, mm-hmm. It was like static. It was just stopped at that number, which I thought was fascinating. I never saw that before. So, I mean, the precision with which this operation was carried out was really, I'd say even the Russians were kind of probably blown away by the way they pulled off this.
They had another rocket that's still in its test phases blow up on Friday, I think it was, which would have made me feel a little,
It's about the fourth time that's happened, actually.
Yeah, it is. I mean, and that's just not the thing you want to see when you've got a flight leaving, the next day. You just don't want to see that. But they were brave. They got on board. They followed their heart, their dream, their passion.
Well, remember about a year ago that Russian they had to abort a mission, and the rescue mission worked. They ejected like about 5,000 miles an hour, and survived. I guess today the safety of that vehicle is like never. There's nothing like it. Never been like it. Anything like it before. In other words. Even you're taking your life in your hands, going on any kind of a spaceship. I think those guys had probably more confidence that they'd survive it no matter what than any previous space launch. So, and they've tested it out a lot of times, that rescue.
It's amazing. It truly is.
Yeah.
And everyone's talking about space travel and I guess Virgin Airlines, they're all set up to take people into orbit at some point. You can already buy your ticket.
It's going to be interesting to see the next contenders. Boeing is one of them, and there's somebody else, a couple of others that are going to be possibly launching to the space station soon. So it'll be interesting to see how these vehicles vary, because they've got one that looks like a baby space shuttle that kind of launches on a rocket. But I think it's kind of tragic. I really think it was unbelievably stupid and foolish to they could have kept a couple of shuttles just to continue going, instead of going with the Russians. I mean, that was kind of like insane. And secondly, they could have been, and they should have been, kind of working on the next generation of shuttles, really, because the shuttle is. I mean, I wouldn't call this a backward step because they've certainly proven. He gets 55 million per seat for launching that. Apparently, the previous shuttle mission used to cost 1.6 billion each mission.
Wow!
So certainly dropped the cost, to little maybe 110 million per launch, which is drastic reduction in cost.
Absolutely.
So you gotta hand it to him for that.
Silver looks beautiful here, 1822.
Absolutely. No, look, actually, I was going to ask you to put it up because thanks for that. It really looks like it's on its way. I think after 19. It might consolidate a little bit at 19, and then I think we're in for a bit of a surprise. Probably a gap up through 20. We might get to that 19 and a half. And then potentially, I think we're in the 20s very quickly right now. And, got a very good buy signal on gold and silver this morning, actually.
If we can get above 20, then we've got resistance, significant resistance up around 2060, 2070. And then after that,
it looks like 22
and a half,
is right on
22.
20 looks like 22 is 22 and a half. 23 is the next stop for this thing.
And then here's the high put in back in 2016, 21, and then back here.
Yeah, it could really actually. It could go semi-parabolic here, Dwayne. It's right up to 30s, right up to the 30s very quickly.
I think that's certainly possible.
Yeah.
Anything else you want to look at?
No, listen, thanks very much.
All right, John.
Have
a great day.
Okay, bye-bye.
We'll talk to you tomorrow. So here we said on the daily chart, price, if it can close above this swing high from May 28th, the swing high was 3065 and a half. If we could close above that today, then the next obstacle overhead is about 3084. Okay, now it's an area. Support and resistance is always an area. Fibs are an area. Weekly trading zones are an area. Yes, fibs and weekly trading zones give you an exact price point on your chart, but it's an area. Now, with weekly trading zones, we often get kind of accustomed to price just turning on a dime at the number, but that's not always the case. So, if we cannot take out this swing high, or if we just nominally take it out and then immediately fail, what happens? Price comes back to the BBC. Price always reverts to the mean, okay? No matter what market, no matter what time frame. But we either go to test resistance, which we either overcome or not. Most likely, the first trip up, it will be good resistance, which will send us back a few steps. And then we'll get a running start. Try it again. At some point, whether it's as we approach resistance or as we test resistance, price will come back to visit the BBC. When that happens, one of two things happens. Price holds or it doesn't. This is what it looks like when it holds. Holds more often than it doesn't. Held here. This is what it looks like when it doesn't hold. If it always held, we would have just a flatline market with no trading opportunities. So that one thing alone holds more often than it doesn't. That's a definable edge in and of itself. And we don't go too far beyond that, complicating things. So let me bring up Concierge Trade Alerts from last night. If you'd like to grab a screenshot, you can certainly do so. Got them out last night at 6:30 p.m. Eastern. Okay, got it. All right, let's go off to a 30-minute chart of the S&P. Taking out this trend line that I drew in, and I think I shared in the discussion group this morning. Okay. Our outlook last night was for higher prices. Now, we had a huge gap lower open, and we anticipated a gap fill on the indices, on futures, in particular the indices. Gaps almost always close in the same session. Okay. So, we gap lower, we find support right where we would expect, where the market found support all day on the 29th, Friday. You'll notice these wicks here. That's price being rejected. Sellers try to drive it down, buyers send it right back up. It never stuck in this area. So did price actually trade all the way down to the weekly zone? Sure. It came within just 4 ticks. 1 point, 4 ticks of touching the zone. But what happened? Buyers swooped in, ran it back up. Sellers tried it again. Sellers even attacked from way up here. But again, okay, what I look at is I look at these bodies, the bottom of these bodies, not so much the wicks. I'm looking for the area that has the most touch points, right? And it was a beautiful thing that the market did, is it handed us that. And just as buyers drove it up here, they drove it up again from this area, okay? So first thing price has to do, if it's going to recover from this gap lower open, is it has to get back above the BBC, which it did. In getting back above the BBC, because of the magnitude of this gap lower open, we have red and falling overhead. So we spend a 30-minute period battling with red and falling, and that 30-minute period results in a doji. which represents a decision. In the right context, it can indicate a turning point. In this context, it was merely a continuation signal. Price closes above red and falling. We put in a swing high up at 30.49. When price runs into resistance that it cannot overcome, it will go look for support. And so it pulled back almost to the BBC. Just a few ticks. So we ran into the step line. Set this back for another look at the BBC. Buyers took that opportunity to push it up to the high of the session. They came very, very close to closing the gap, but they didn't quite make it. Closing price on Friday was 30.57 1/4. This swing high was 55 1/4, 2 points difference. And the current high is 56.5. 56.5 versus the closing price of 57 1/4. So 3 ticks. We're 3 ticks away from closing that gap, which is one of the first things we discussed last night in the discussion group. Okay. All right. So on the Concierge Trade Alert, we were looking to be long 30.45, which is going to be in this area. 30.45. Okay. So from 30.45, we put in an initial swing high at 47.5. And then we get back below the trigger and we put in a swing high at 30.49. And then we get back below the trigger and we put in a swing high at 55 1/4. So 1, 2, 3 profitable triggers in a row. The third one ran up 10 points at $50 a point, $500 per contract traded. Important prices, important areas are almost always tested. So price, we've already done 1, 2, 3. Price gets back below the trigger. This time it runs to 47 1/4 again, another 2 1/4 points. Okay. Then it gets back below the trigger and it runs to 49.75. So that's 4 3/4 points at $50 a point per contract traded. And it gets below the trigger one more time. And from 30.45, it's put in a high at 56.50. So another 10-point move. So several 2-point moves, 4-point moves, 2 10-pointers. That's the story on the S&P Concierge Trade Alert for last night. If you have any questions, put them in the chat box. I'll be happy to answer them. On the Dow, same thing. You're going to see the same, the indices travel in a pack. Okay. Sometimes the Russell leads, sometimes the NQ leads, sometimes the S&P leads. Even the Dow can lead. There is no one major index future that always leads the pack. So if you're doing any kind of a study trying to chase that down, many before you have tried, and it's just not how it works. So, but you can see that the epic struggle, the battle to get higher after the gap lower open, you're going to see it here, you're going to see it on the Russell, you're going to see it on the NQ. Okay. That understanding right there can truly help you in your trading. Well, I think I'm going to go long the NQ and short the Dow. Okay. Well, that kind of doesn't make sense, because as a general rule, the 4 move in the same direction. You know, one gets up ahead of the pack, and then, you know, one's lagging, but at the right scale, everything seems simple. So, you know, on a 1 minute chart, you won't see that. But you come out to a 30-minute chart, and 30 minutes is no magic time frame. There are no magic time frames. The only magic in any time frame is the magic you bring to it because you've spent so much time in that particular time frame with that particular market that you know what a setup looks like. You understand what the market is doing. You hear the rhythm of the market. So we get a gap lower open. And where do we find support? Right where we anticipate where the market found support on Friday. So we expect support here until proven otherwise. Well, it was never proven otherwise. So the first step in closing this gap, which this one has closed as of this candle here. First step is getting back above the BBC. Remember, when we're below the BBC, we're looking for lower prices. But once we get above it, we're looking for higher prices. So we get above the BBC and we get above red and falling all in one 30-minute candle. And from there, we put in a swing high up at 25,464. When price can't go any higher, what does it do? Pulls back to the BBC, makes another run. This time we hit 25519, closes the gap, and then just a wee bit. Then there was an odd candle here at 4 a.m. Eastern, which in one fell swoop undid all of this work and put us back below the BBC. That's a little unusual, considering it happened at 4 a.m. Eastern. Now, there may have been some global news event that played a part in that. I wasn't watching. Investing.com, 4 a.m. Eastern. What, do you have anything? Well, there was the German manufacturing PMI. It does claim to be a high impact. And they did miss, but not by much. So anything that would relate to that move would need to happen. You know, it was at 4:30, see, after that candle, that this manufacturing PMI came in. So I don't think we can lay it on planned economic reports. For all I know, the president sent out a tweet. All I know is we're back below the BBC. But yet our bias for the day is still to the upside, and so the market has to do all this work over again. It's got to get above the BBC. It's got to get above red and falling. Okay? Then it makes a nice little run. Goes back to the BBC. Confirms this area here as good support. Here. Here. And now we find ourselves back above the BBC, printing a green candle on the 30-minute chart. Last night's alert on the Dow was to consider being along 25,380. So let's find that on our chart. 25,380. Right about there. 25,380. All right. So from 380, we put in a swing high up at 464. That's about 80 points at $50 a point is $400 per contract traded. Price gets back below the trigger, meets up with our friend the BBC. It launches but stalls right there, right at the step line. We come back for another touch of the BBC. And if you're trading off a 30-minute chart, you know that your stop loss has to be here. So if you're getting your view from the 30-minute, you can navigate entries off the 5. But that entry you navigate off the 5 can never defy what you see on the 30. Okay? So did it take 2 attempts for the market to go higher off this pullback? It did. But if you caught the first one, well, I'm sure you reached your daily goal and you didn't need to chase the second one or the third one. So we get a doji printing right here at the trigger. Important price, important area, almost always tested. So from 380 we go up to a swing high at 500. So it's at 120 points, $50 a point, $600 per contract traded. Price gets back below the trigger, and this time from 380 it makes it up to 440, about 60 points, $5 a point, $300 per contract traded. Back below the trigger, does the same thing again, gets back below the trigger, and does the same thing yet again. Except this time from 380 it goes to 470, so that's about 90 at $5 a point. It's $450 per contract traded. Okay. On the Russell, the alert said to consider being long 1398. And so we'll find 1398 right here. From 1398. Write that down. From 1398. Put in a swing high at 1402.80. So basically 4 points, 4+ points at $50 a point. It's $200 per contract traded. Price then pulls back to the BBC, finds support, triggers again. Okay, this time from 1398 we go up to 1406. So that's 8 points at $50 a point, $400 per contract traded. Back below the trigger, off we go again. From 1398 up to 1403. So 5 points at $50 a point, $250 per contract traded. And then we get back below the trigger and off we go again. And from 1398 we've made it up to 19.9. So that's 22.1. So that's 21 points at $50 a point, $1,000 per contract traded. Okay, and you had 1, 2, 3, 4 opportunities to get the job done, whatever that means to you, getting the job done, reaching your goal for the day. Okay. So we've done the S&P, we've done the Dow, we've done the Russell. Let's do the NQ. On the NQ, the alert was to be long 95.48. $95.48. All right, so from 95.48 $95.48 we make a run up to 78. That's 30 points at $20 a point, $600 per contract traded. Back below the trigger, off we go again. From 48 up to 88, that's 40 points. That's $800 per contract traded. And then we're back below the trigger and off we go again. This time we go from 48 to 85. And then back below the trigger. And so far we've got a high up at 96.05. So that's about 55 points at $20 a point. That's over $1,000 per contract traded. On crude, these are last week's weekly trading zones. Of course, All of our members got this week's weekly trading zones this morning at 6:15 a.m. Eastern. We've been publishing the zones every Monday since December 14th of 2009. They provide a very nice framework for the upcoming week. Our traders have an idea of what to expect, areas on their chart where they will find support, resistance. Even though these are last week's zones, you can see that this high put in last night at last week's weekly trading zone, which also was the very first logic alert coming out of the gate, I think, that ran to the target to the tick. The entry was 65, the target was 90. The price hits the zone, resistance, when just like approaching the BBC from below, you expect resistance. When you approach a weekly trading zone from below, you expect resistance. And when you approach it from above, you expect support. The most likely thing to happen at a weekly trading zone is right here, consolidation. Second most likely is rejection. The third and least likely, but it happens, is the slice. The price slices through a zone like it's not there. However, when that happens, price will usually pull back and then continue in the direction of the slice. So the Concierge Trade Alert last night for crude was to be long 35, 65. Right there, 35.65 up to 35.90. That's a weekly trading zone on both Concierge and Logic Alerts. The final trade to target on every trade. If it's a long, it's the zone overhead. If it's a short, it's the zone below. Okay. So here, it went 2 ticks over the trigger. Okay. Market just didn't have enough to make it back to the zone again. And here we hit 65 right on the nose. Important price, important area. The flip side of crude was to consider being short 33.90. And 33.90 is down here, and we've not seen that yet in this session. Gold, again, you're looking at last week's zones. Now on gold, we had a gap higher open, opposite of the indices, which gapped lower on the open. Gold, we're in the Q contract now. Consider being long above 1760. Well, we only put in a swing high at 1761. It's $100 per contract traded. Consider being short 1739, and the swing low put in was 3760. So about $100 on the short side. We've got gold trading in a bit of a range here, sideways, trying to make up its mind. Is it going to make a run at 1800? Can it hold 1800? Can it do 1900? As we mentioned at the beginning of the show, sadly, war is good for the markets, and it tends to be bullish for gold as well. So, we'll see. Let's just hope everything settles down and everybody goes home and not one more building has to be burned and no one has to be harmed. And that we can all treat each other with dignity and respect. Wouldn't that be a wonderful life? Now, I have shocking news to report. We had more stop-outs last night on Logic 247, I think, than we've had in the last couple of weeks. Let me go find my recap that Val sent me. Okay, here we go. All right. Logic 247. Logic 247 is based on current price action. The Concierge Trade Alerts is based on previous price behavior. When you merge the two together, the previous with the present, wonderful things can happen. That's why we have two separate alert services. When they both, using a different methodology, point their finger at the same important area, it's almost always worth taking a second to look. Now, Friday, when we did the recap, we had 2 stop outs the whole week out of 48 actionable alerts. And the week before was some abnormally small number. We've had a series of weeks of wee numbers, and every day I tell you, this is like the weight loss ad, okay? The before and after picture. This is not typical results. Typical results, 20%. Pendulum swings both ways. So when you have a repeated number of weeks where you have abnormally low numbers of, or instances of being stopped out, at some point the pendulum goes the other way. Oh, 40%? Oh my God. Gosh, oh my gosh. We have 13 total alerts issued. Still waiting on the results of 3. That gave us 10 actionable alerts. 4 guys stopped out. That's 40%. It's 40%. Now, let me show you what the final results were for last week. Last week was week 95, and here's how we finished up week 95. We had 70 alerts total, 15 never triggered. That left us with 55 actionable alerts. 4 got stopped out. That's so 7% of actionable alerts stopped out. See, that's that abnormally low number. Okay, so we're early in the week. We've only had 13 alerts total issued, so we'll see what happens. Week 96. S&P stopped out, Dow stopped out, Russell found a target, NQ stopped out. 95.33 to the tick, so some will see this. This is an instance where it ran all the way to 95.33 to the tick. So some would stop out, others would get full target. Depends upon where you're in the line waiting to get filled. And so in the interest of being decent, whenever such a situation arises, we just mark it as a stop out. Now we could come on here and argue the case. Well, some people got filled, so we're going to call it a thumbs up. No, if there's anything questionable about it at all, we just make it a stop. It just, it is what it is. Okay. Here's crude. Here's gold. More crude. Another stop out on the S&P. The S&P it's trying to move higher, but it's just running into trouble. And there's a Russell thumbs up, and an S&P thumbs up, and an NQ thumbs up. Okay, so that's where we stand on the week. Okay, now let's run through the charts one more time. Let's go to the S&P. Still looking for higher prices. We've got last week's weekly trading zone overhead at 77.78. This week's weekly trading zone, it's in the same neighborhood. Typically on Thursdays, I share all of the weekly trading zones with the entire audience, but they are reserved for just members early going in the week. So S&P, if we can overcome this obstacle, lots of room to run to the upside. That zone never got touched during last week's trading. On the Dow, we're above the BBC. We're looking for higher prices. Your first area for resistance is about 25,500, and then above that about 25,650. Okay, you might want to write those down. Should the market come undone and head lower, then look for support around 25,160, 25,170. On the Russell, we're at an area that I anticipate to be good resistance. So if the Russell goes into a pullback, it has led to the upside today. It could lead in a pullback, if that's what it chooses to do. Now, if it can get above this area, there's lots of room to climb on the upside. In Q, bullish, looking for higher prices. We've taken out the swing high of Friday, not by much, but make a note on your chart, about 96.50. If we continue higher, I would not expect us to trade higher than 96.40/50 in today's session. But that's lots of room to run if buyers come in this afternoon and start bidding the market up. Crude, I think we may have a leg to the downside coming, okay? But I don't expect us to trade below these lows. And gold is positioned for a leg to the upside. I'll look for resistance about 17.55. Let's go to our good word for the day. Try that again. Where are my notes? Today we'll talk about discovering your destiny. 1 Samuel 10:27. But some rebels said, "How can this man save us?" So they despised him and brought him no presents. But he held his peace. When God calls you to a special destiny, not everybody's going to be happy about it. After Saul was anointed king, some said, "How can this man save us?" So they despised him, brought him no presents, no soup for you, but he held his peace. So what we're looking at here is Saul's reaction to his critics. He held his peace. Bottom line, it's not your responsibility to convince others of your calling. It's their responsibility to discern it. In Proverbs 18, the Bible says, "A man's gift makes room for him." It's your gifts and the results they produce that validate your calling. For Samuel 9, Samuel said to Saul, "Stand here a while, that I may announce to you the word of God." When you know you've heard from God, the criticism of others will affect you less. His presence reassures you. His words direct your steps. His peace settles the storm within. After you hear the voice of God, the flattering words of others can't puff you up, because both your feet are on the ground and your instructions are clear. You will not require the praise of others, for his confidence in you satisfies completely. After you hear the voice of God, your attitude, it just changes instantly. You will not face the future with anger, torment, or fear. God has spoken. His words have settled every issue, and time will prove him correct. And here's an important scripture to keep in mind. Zechariah 4:10. Do not despise these small beginnings, for the Lord rejoices to see the work begin. So instead of comparing yourself with others, putting yourself down, celebrate each small step of faith you take on the way to your God-given destiny. And that's our good word for the day. Thanks so much for tuning in. Whoever you are, wherever you are, may God continue to richly bless you with His mercy and with His grace. And I'll see you at the bell.
Remember this, there is no greater return on investment than to see a human life changed and given hope. As always, pray hard and trade safe. Any financial information discussed on this show is simply the opinion of our host, Dwayne Reeves, his co-hosts, and guests. To learn more about trading Emini Futures or to take a 1-week free trial in our live trading room, call 1-866-928-3310. 866-928-3310. Information discussed on this radio program should not be construed as a recommendation to buy or sell any security. Always do your own due diligence and consult with a licensed securities broker or financial planner before making any investment decision.